People often ask me, like, well, didn't you shoot that movie like 2 years ago and you're just sending it out to festivals now? What's up with that? Well, this happens with all films, even films being distributed by big companies, and that's because post takes a really long time. Like to edit a film, it takes months and months and months because it's not just, oh, I grab all the pieces, I put them together, and it's done. People think editing is like that. It's so not like that. It's tedious. It can take a week or more to edit one scene, and that's without sound design and color correction, let alone a whole movie. And you have many takes to go through, and depending on how much you got to shoot, on your budget or time, you know, you might have a lot to go through, to weed through, and you have to look at every shot. You have to look at every single shot. You can't just go, well, this one's fine, I'll leave the rest. Like, why did you shoot them? So it's a very tedious get to know your film, get to know your footage, get to know what's going together, where you have continuity problems. Sometimes you need to reinvent something in post because it's dragging and you need a break or you need to move scenes around. When I made Sugar, I moved a lot of scenes around from the way they were written by the screenwriter. She did a lovely job, but it just wasn't working in post to create the right arc for each character. So things got shifted, an entire character and storyline got deleted. I mean, these are all things you have to go through in post and just deal with letting go of and deal with fixing. There's a lot of fixing, especially in indie film, but in all films. And then you have to get it all put together. And sometimes you have to bring back actors to do ADR to record lines again that need to be redubbed because of sound issues or something needed to change to like cut a scene. Sometimes you have a scene where you're trying to skip a section, but you need to hear this one line to make the skip work or something like that. And so you don't show that actor's mouth, obviously, when they're talking because you didn't record that on set, but you can show a reaction shot or something else that's going on in the scene. And then you can get those lines in. So they have to be dubbed. Then they have to be placed. Then there's a sound designer that comes in, which is not just, oh, here's a couple of effects. It's a lot. Sometimes you're putting in footsteps. Sometimes you're putting in the wind blowing and atmosphere noise. And then there's music. And sometimes you have to have music written. And everything just takes a long time. And then you send out to festivals. So as an indie filmmaker, you've got to wait now. You send it to a festival, you may not hear for months, and you want to hit your biggest festivals that you're trying for first. And if you don't get into those, then you go to your next list. So that takes you into more time because you got to wait to hear from the other ones first before you start looking for your second tier list, and so on. If you're a big company, you might have distribution all lined up in advance, and then there's like a rush to meet that distribution deadline. So usually it's further out to give time. Sometimes not. I've heard of films that get released and they still have issues that they just didn't have time to fix because they had those release deadlines. With an indie film, you don't, and that's good because you're also working your job and you're hustling. So you're not editing full time, and you can't necessarily afford your colorist right away. You may need to bank money. You may need to work a few freelance jobs to be able to afford to pay that person. So that all takes time, and you have to give yourself that. Otherwise, the piece suffers. I hear people all the time rushing for a film festival deadline. Oh, I have to apply to Sundance this year. They're going to love my film. No, they're not. First of all, it doesn't matter. Even if somebody said send it, they don't know what you have might be the world's best thing. But if you're not famous, you don't have a big name, you don't have a high budget, you're probably not going to get in, and you're rushing and ruining your film for nothing. So it's a pet peeve of mine. Like, your film needs the time that your film needs. And all these things need to happen, whether you're a small film or a big film. You got to get through post, you got to get through festivals, and then the film gets released.